It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
All right, I sincerely apologize in advance for opening up a little bit on a down note today. Hat facing the right way, no goofy Italian graphics on the shirt. Wow, I'm a little surprised I'm as choked up as I am. You know, without getting, without getting into any dramatic stuff, losing a loved one is always crushing. A family member, a friend, losing a pet is very, very hard. And a lot of you know about 9 years ago, could be 10 already. I don't check the date, but I had to put my my little boy down. Still hits me to this day. Well, 12 years ago, a little less than 12 years ago, I met my wife. And she is a dog lover, just like I am. That's actually how we hit it off originally. Shortly after we started dating, my dog got sick. Well, he was already diabetic, but he was going through major problems. So within a year, I would say I had to put him down. The hardest thing I ever did. And the thing that, you know, even though Kev Castle and I had some issues the last 4 years and everything's cool in the gang now, the one thing I will always appreciate is that he reached out to me the day that it happened. And he did not want to do the show. He's like, brother, don't do it. I'm like, I got to do it. Got to get my mind off it. We did a show and we did a banger and didn't tell anybody. Took me weeks before I told her. Anyway, bottom line is my wife has 3 cute little Yorkies, 2 boys and 1 girl. And when I first met her female dog, Chelsea, had separation anxiety. She was hooked to my wife like this. Me, she was afraid of. And there's a weird video on my personal Facebook page from about 10 years ago where just for a test, I brought it to my house just without my wife to see if she would bond. And I put down 10 or 11 different plates of food, from McDonald's to pizza to dog food to junk food to steak to hamburgers, would not touch it. That's how petrified she was of me. Over the last bunch of years, we started to bond a little bit. And now after I got married in 2022, she was bringing her female dog here because dog separation anxiety is attached to my wife. And for the last year and a half, we clicked. It brings back bad memories. This, believe it or not, is a picture of her 3 or 4 days ago. Earlier today, she died in our house. Heart attack. She's had some issues, which we believe is fluid on the lungs. Very bad cough. Big water drinker. Bottom line is, last night, the dog started panting. I would say probably like around 6, 7 o'clock at night. And panting, would not lay down, would just stand around. You know, we carried her on the bed. I don't want to get into a whole long thing about it, but anyway, the bottom line is that from 7:00 at night last night until late last night, the dog panted, would not stop panting, no matter what we did. Would drink a little bit, would eat a little bit, would not stop panting. Started to look online, and we made an appointment to go to a special vet today at 11 a.m. I fell asleep at around 1 a.m., and we were contemplating about taking her to a hospital. But she's panted before, for hours. She gets hot. My wife fell asleep also. I got up around 3 o'clock this morning, and the dog was still standing up, panting. And this dog is 13 years old, sleeps 12, 16 hours a day. This dog could not lay down. And now we understand why. The day before, I had picked her up in the middle of the night, and when she was breathing, she sounded like she was congested. She more than likely had a lot of fluid on her lungs. And every time she tried to lay down yesterday, she couldn't breathe. So she just preferred to stand. This morning, we decided we were going to take her to a hospital. And around 9 a.m., we were getting ready to leave, and we hear this thump. My wife goes inside, and the dog is still awake, but just kind of collapsed. I brought her into my bed, and I know this sounds kind of disgusting, but she was laying on my bed, and I look down, and I see one lump of dog shit, regular dog shit, nothing. And I always heard that when people are about to pass, they can't hold their bodily fluids. And we called the nearest hospital instead of the one we were going to go to. And they said, come right over. And from the time we got out of our house to Forest Hills Blue Pearl Hospital, which was great, she was gone. She was gone. And, the thing that really hit me today, I want to show you all something. This is, excuse me, I have not slept much. This is a picture of my dog in his urn. This is from 9-10 years ago, whenever it was. That was his favorite toy. I took that picture earlier today, and something really hit me hard. I'm sorry, I'm drinking coffee. When I took that picture, I want to show you something. I want to show you those pictures side by side. Do you see something in common? For some reason, 3-4 days ago, I took a picture of her dog, and she happens to be standing in the exact same room on the exact same tiles that my dog stood when I took a picture of him weeks before he passed. And I saw the pictures side by side, and it's almost like 3-4 days ago. For some reason, she just wanted me to take a picture of her. And this is going to end up going on her urn. That's why I know I get mushy about family, about friends, about keeping things real here. I don't like to play a character. Yes, when I do the shows, Don Tony don't act like this outside. I let my guard down. I act like a fool many times. DT, you act the fool. Yeah. We let our guard down. We have fun. We're wrestling fans. We talk goofy stuff. We have a ball. But always cherish your friends, your family, your pets. 3 days ago, 4 days ago, this dog was fine. She always had issues. Today she's gone. My wife is crushed. And I'm a little surprised that I was able to do the show today. I posted on Twitter because I wanted people to be prepared that I was going to open up and mention this. Because, look, no one will ever replace my dog. No one will ever replace my dog. This dog was a good dog. So believe me when I tell you guys, every time one of you DM me, post it in a chat, send an email, post on my social media that you're mourning the loss of a pet. And sometimes you ask me, DT, how do you deal with the loss of a pet? Whenever I give you advice, I promise you, I know when it comes to wrestling news, I try to address all the clickbait out there, people posting things just to draw you in, and I always keep it real here, and that's not the winning formula. Eventually it will be. I think with DT Casey coming back, it will be. But putting all that shit aside, whenever I tell you about family, friends, and pets, it's coming straight here. It's not coming from here. It's not coming from let me draw you in. Let me try to strike an emotional nerve. Let me try to, it's straight from here. And, it's rough, man. It's rough. I decided to do the show tonight as a little bit of therapy. A lot of, and we'll move to wrestling right now, I promise you. But, when my grandmother died in 1991, and she's the one that got me into wrestling. I've always told this story over the years. My grandmother loved playing cards. She loved to gamble. And for the last couple of years of her life, Anthony, when are we going to Atlantic City? Anthony, when are we going to Atlantic City? Anthony, when are we going to Atlantic City? Nana, we'll go next week. We'll go next month. Now, keep in mind, early 90s, I'm a very young DT going out with my friends, going to clubs, not thinking that my grandmother could pass before you know it. And she died in April of 91. And before she got buried, as weird as this sounds, I asked one of my friends, do you want to go to Atlantic City? He's like, why? Your grandmother just died. I'm like, for some reason, I feel like I got to go. I went. I ended up winning a little, and I brought back a chip, and I put it in her coffin before they buried it. And I said, Nanny, we went to Atlantic City. And that's 1991. You see how I get. So believe me when I tell you, I know you're not here for any of that other stuff, but, when I say that these shows are therapy for me, and I hope they're therapy for you, Kevin and I returning, yeah, we want to get back to number one. Yeah, we want to make money, but these shows are therapy also. They're fun. It gets our mind and our lives off of the bullshit that we all have to deal with every day. So if any of you that's going through this, or if you go through this in the future with a pet, any emotions you feel are legit. And don't be ashamed, to reach out and talk about it. Listen, I didn't post that picture of Chelsea on Twitter to get views or likes. I guarantee you, by the end of tonight or tomorrow, there's virtually no posts whatsoever. Because people think, oh, you're posting it to trigger an emotion and drag people. No, I just want people to be prepared what this show's going to feel like tonight and be like tonight. So, all right, enough of that. As I said earlier, January 29th, 2024, Kev Castle and I will be returning full-time on Mondays mostly. We will do some occasional extra episodes as well. This week, I will post the Discord link everywhere, so everyone will have a chance to sign up. Get ready. January 29th, it all happens again. And we are working on a 20-year anniversary shirt. That will take a month or two to get done because we want it to be perfect. So when that becomes available, I will definitely let everybody know. So anyway, let's do the sit down. We'll do about an hour. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. I got 2 hours sleep. And, today was rough, but it also was rough because it brings back what happened with my Peanut. That was the name of my dog. So, believe me when I tell you, after this, me and my wife are going to probably just turn the lights off and try to go to sleep. So what's the sit down? For anybody that's newer, it's simple. Sundays, it's been the lazy. Oh, I got to say this, very important. The sit down is remaining in the future. There's no secret that Wednesday's shows are going away for a little while because Kevin and I will be talking AEW and NXT on Monday nights as well. Saturdays or Sundays, we have to get rid of one show for now because a lot of the Don Tony stuff that we cover on Saturdays, Kevin and I are going to be covering 2 days later on a Monday. So for now, the Don Tony and Kevin Castle show and the sit down and Patreon will remain. Next week, I'm going to post a poll everywhere, and you're going to decide if we continue doing the sit down on Sundays. Do we do it on Saturdays? Do you want it on a different night? Do you want it early in the day, later in the day? You're going to be the deciding factor. I go with whatever you choose. So it's staying. So what is the sit down simply? It's staying because it's the lazy show. It's the lazy show. I show up with nothing. Everybody who is live tonight dictates what we talk about. You ask the questions, you make the comments, I share it with everybody tuning in. And all I ask is in the chat room, if I do answer your question, wait a little while before asking another. Let's spread it around a little bit. Super chats never required, but they do help pay the bills. So they'll always get a little bit of VIP priority. And I want to kick off with one that came in shortly before the show started, and we'll shoot right over to the chat room. So get your questions ready. We will spend an hour answering them all, talking them all. All right, who sent me this? Sal Lamondola, thank you for the 5-spot, Sal. Your old friend Matt Stryker, is getting canceled on Twitter for creepy tweets about young girls from 10 years ago. My thoughts. I'll be honest with you. The only buzz I heard about Matt Stryker today was some remarks he said about Matt Riddle, who fought in New Japan. And by the way, Matt Riddle and Misha Montana reached out to me last week. Matt wants to come on. I don't want to do like every other interview. I might end up doing just a casual conversation and give you all an opportunity to send in a question that we could discuss. Maybe we'll bring up JFK. And I don't mean the movie, because, we'll try to come up with some stuff that no one else is talking about. But that'll happen soon. I want to see if Kev wants to be part of it as well. But as far as Matt Stryker goes, I heard some remarks he said about Matt Riddle. I don't know about his creepy tweets from 10 years ago. A lot of you know that back in the USA Pro Wrestling days, I had my issues with Matt Stryker, but that animosity towards Matt is long gone. I have no hate or ill will towards Matt Stryker. The only thing I will say is this. And I'm not defending Matt Stryker because I have not seen the tweets that Sal is referencing. Matt Stryker is younger than me. My guess is he's probably in his early 40s. Maybe, I would say early 40s. So 10 years ago, he'd be in his early 30s. If he was writing about young girls as in underage girls, my question would be, why was he not canceled 10 years ago? But if Matt Stryker is just being a chauvinistic pig, talking about girls that, yes, disrespectful, yes, distasteful, but not every girl in 2023 is a nun. All I could say is, hey, how come you all didn't cancel him 10 years ago? There's got to be a reason. And please don't say to me, well, I didn't really use Twitter at the time. I got to see the tweets before I could really say anything. Matt's 49? Jesus. Luke, Matt is 49? Wait, when he was doing USA Pro in 06, training people, that's 17 years. He was 32 already? That's pretty wild. But, okay, so he was 39 10 years ago. I got to see the tweets, man. I will tell you this. I'm not defending Matt Stryker. Did I say Matt Riddle a few times? Matt Stryker. But I'll say this. I think people are smart enough to know that if they have said some awful shit in the past, especially on Twitter, that they probably would have scrubbed their pages by now. The fact that all these tweets are still up there and he never scrubbed his page, either A, he's lazy or ignorant, or B, he just believes, hey, I was just being a jerk. Hey, I was just being Matt Striker. Hey, don't take it personal. Hey, I wasn't talking about underage. He probably didn't think much of a big deal about it. I personally don't think you cancel people out from 10 years ago unless it's something like really, really awful. To just come out of the woodwork and do this now, I don't know about that. But I will check it out. Trust me, you don't think that if I wanted a reason to shit on Matt Striker, I would. I don't have any ill will towards him anymore. And honestly, I'd rather see what the deal is before I say anything else. By the way, thank you to everybody who was in the chat expressing thoughts and prayers. It hits me hard. I mean, I've always told my wife, and I've pissed off some people on this channel in the past, that I don't want to open my heart up to other animals other than my bird Fred and Peanut, because Peanut, that was my best friend, and it's not easy to open up to another dog. But, I realized, that yes, you can love another dog. And, I got very close to this dog, and it's just a shame. I mean, whatever kind of dog you have, understand they're not going to live to be 50. I think that's what a lot of us forget. You get a dog, they get to be 10, they get to be 12, 13, 14 years old, and they seem to be in great health. And you kind of forget that their average lifespan is 15, right? So when they get to 13, 14, and they're in great health, you think, oh, he's going to be one of the exceptions. He's going to live to be 20. And then, bam, out of nowhere. I think that's what happened here. All right. Revamp thinks that Matt Striker is a garbage commentator. My only problem with Matt Striker's commentary over the years is he has too many references about politics, too many references about outside things that have nothing to do with wrestling. Like if you look at Mauro Ranallo would once in a while reference something from UFC. Yes, wrestling and UFC are still two totally different, genres. But there's enough people that are wrestling fans that can identify it. Matt Striker will bring up politicians from New York while he's on WWE TV, and I'm like, Rob Bartlett used to do that shit. I may remember Rob Bartlett when he was on Raw. Matt Striker would reference things, and you know why he did it? Because he wanted people to think he was extremely intelligent, much more knowledgeable about the world than the everyday person. So you name drop all these people that people normally don't mention, and you're like, oh, this guy knows his shit. But as a wrestling fan, you're like, who's that? Do I even care? All right. Rojo Bear, thank you for the 5 spot. Jack Perry signed his AEW contract 5 years ago in January 2019. Do I think it's possible that Tony Khan let it expire and doesn't re-sign him? I would be shocked. I would be shocked if that happens, and I will tell you why. I brought this up about a month and a half ago. It's a take on Jack Perry. I don't like Jack Perry. I mean, I've made it clear I don't like him. I don't have to be forced to show support for him because his dad died. I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm a wrestling fan watching a wrestler, seeing how he acts in and out of the business. Just because you have crooked Ray-Bans on, it's like, oh, that makes you tough. Why? Because you're banging a hot chick? I don't care. I want to be entertained. I don't like Jack Perry. But I personally think Tony Khan's biggest mistake with Jack Perry was not publicly suspending him. Or I should take that back, publicly firing him. The same time with CM Punk firing Jack Perry, because technically he was suspended. But I'll tell you why he should have fired Jack Perry. Because when CM Punk came back to WWE, AEW fans would have said, hey, CM Punk is back on TV. I think it's time Jack Perry is allowed back on TV as well. And then it comes off that Tony Khan gave a message to that roster. You fight, you provoke, you start shit, you're fired. Not suspend, you're fired. Because I even, people have said Jack Perry got suspended with pay. With pay. So personally, if the biggest mistake is Tony Khan should have fired him, then he could have brought him back. And guess what? Jack Perry could possibly be on TV already. And I think people would say, hey, what happened with him and CM Punk was fucked up, but CM Punk is back on TV. He's killing it in WWE. Let Jack Perry come back to AEW. And I think fans would welcome him. To have Tony Khan suspend Jack Perry and then just let his contract run out and all this time he's getting paid and suspended, that's ridiculous. If Tony Khan is going to let Jack Perry out of his contract, you don't do it because it expires. You do it because of disciplinary actions. Even if Tony Khan still wants to be mushy, a mush, that he's too mushy and soft, with discipline, just now writing it off to a disciplinary committee. You do realize now that the term disciplinary committee has replaced outside investigation. I don't think any podcaster has kind of brought that up yet. Outside investigation has been replaced with disciplinary committee. Something happens, no more. Oh, it's an outside event because people figured it out. People figured it out. There was no Inspector Gadget trying to put the pieces together. Go, Gadget. No. People realized that was just a way out of not talking about it. So now, oh no, the disciplinary committee is handling it. And I respect their recommendations. So that's what that's come. So Jack Perry, I don't think Tony Khan releases him after all this time. If he was going to let him go, you let him go because of the fight. You don't let him go now because his contract ran out. I don't think so. I'd be shocked if that happens. VJ, do I think the person that suffered most from Vince McMahon leaving is Tony Khan? No, I think Tony Khan has suffered the most about TKO Group Holdings merging Endeavor with WWE, buying WWE. Because Vince McMahon, even if Vince, listen, let's be clear. I know people don't want to tell you this online. Vince McMahon still owns billions in WWE. Vince McMahon still has a say in WWE. It's just kind of like the McMahon family still beloves Mae Young, but you're not supposed to know that. Does Vince get involved in the everyday operations? No. But TKO Group Holdings made a concerted decision that Nick Khan and Triple H are clearly the ones running the ship right now. Vince McMahon has a say. And without Vince McMahon, Triple H is not there. Without Vince McMahon, Nick Khan is not there. So if anybody out there is still trying to sell you that Triple H and Nick Khan are forcing Vince out of the company, I got a chamber to sell you. So Tony Khan is the one that's been hurt by this sale more than anything else, because they're the ones that chose Nick Khan and Triple H to be the two figureheads that are perceived to be running the ship. Understand that some people who are released, some people who have been re-signed, some people who they're negotiating new contracts with right now are being done, headed up by Triple H and Nick Khan. But at the end of the day, TKO Group Holdings is the one that signs it off, and that board of directors is 6-5 in favor of TKO, of Endeavor. So at the end of the day, you have TKO Group Holdings agreeing to it. You'll never know who Triple H and Nick Khan wanted to sign, wanted to offer something, And TKO Group Holdings said, nah, too much. Too much money, too much freedom, too long of a contract. Nah, we don't think it's fit. You look at Vic Joseph's wife, Mackenzie Mitchell. You think Triple H and Nick Khan said, Mackenzie Mitchell, she's expendable. No, TKO Group Holdings is still consolidating two companies. And they looked at the number of employees doing the commentary work and the interview stuff and this and that. And they said, you know what? We don't need Mackenzie Mitchell right now. That's what happened. That's why Mackenzie is so warm to a return, and everybody within WWE loves her. Nobody in WWE wanted to let her go. Vince didn't let her go. Triple H and Nick Khan didn't let her go. Maybe they were the ones that had to tell her because it's WWE side of things. But Tony Khan, no, TKO purchasing the whole deal. Triple H is the one, and Nick Khan is the one. And, the rest, they're the ones that have hurt Tony Khan the most. And, I don't think Vince is really the reason. I think for a lot of people, they're starting to get angry that they can't blame it on Vince anymore. You could like Tony Khan says that he's a promoter that's fighting for the promoters that didn't make it. There's not many companies, especially in the entertainment world, other than the major conglomerates that could stay 20, 30, 40 years. But it was funny how many promoters he kind of left out that were pretty successful as well. Paul Heyman being one of them, But I think as Tony Khan gets older, I think he'll get more mature. I hope that he does. Okay, let's go back to the chat. Let's talk a little more. Vince McMahon is much more than ceremonial at this point. TKO Group Holdings, Ari Emanuel, Triple H, Nick Khan, Vince McMahon himself, they all know that the perception of Vince McMahon still running creative is a turnoff. Not just to fans, but also to Sasha Banks, to others. They feel that Triple H is the one now running the ship. It makes it more attractive. It gets better press. It gets better reception from the business world. But the funny thing is, I will bet you anything you want to bet. I will bet you anything that when Saudi Arabia comes up for renewal or WWE starts negotiating another deal with Saudi Arabia, you best damn believe Vince McMahon will be involved with it. A lot of corporate executives want Vince McMahon at the table. That's why Vince McMahon is not being pushed out completely. Because without Vince McMahon, Crown Prince, you put it this way, Triple H can't just say, what if we bring back a DX? We can bring back a Monada to there. We could maybe get Undertaker back. No, they want to deal with Vince. You look at that corporate world, Vince. The people that hate Vince are the fans and the wrestlers, pretty much. And without the fans and the wrestlers, WWE is a goose egg. WWE is dead on arrival. So, Tristan Sloan, who's my favorite tag team in history. Favorite tag team in history. Boy. Now, I could include makeshift teams, but I'm not. As far as favorite tag team, I would go with the Road Warriors. Badass motherfuckers, man. I didn't want to curse on today's episode, sorry, but Road Warriors are probably number one. Road Warriors at that time were just larger than life. And trust me, I loved the Steiners. I loved Arn Anderson and Tully. I loved the New Age Outlaws. I loved Cactus and Mick Foley. Cactus, same person. Cactus Jack and Terry Funk. I loved Booker T and Goldust. I loved, even TNA teams, but probably the Road Warriors, number one. Road Warriors are number one. Hardy Boys, Harlem Heat, Edge and Chris. You could go on with Dudleys. We going on and on until tomorrow, but probably the Road Warriors. Kevin Milwaukee, do I think had Bobby Duncombe Jr. went on to have a long career, his untapped potential and the rub from Mr. Perfect that he could have had a career similar to the modern Hangman Page? I think Hangman Page, if he happens to watch this broadcast, should send you a free shirt, because I look at Hangman Adam Page and I kind of put him in a category like, man, what a waste of the last couple of years. Outside of what could have been with Kenny Omega and the Bryan Danielson stuff, Hangman Page, I feel like his career is kind of sucky right now. You know, you could ooh and ah over the match with Swerve Strickland, and look where it is now. You know, it just feels like, you know, Hangman Page, he should have done more in the last 5 years, in my opinion. Should have done more. And look, he was world champion. But, you know, I mean, let's also blame it on COVID a little bit. You know, give him a little fairness there. Bobby Duncombe Jr. was too Southern for the WWF. I know that sounds ridiculous to a lot of people in 2023, but believe me when I tell you, when I was a kid growing up, or even in my 20s and 30s, even when we started covering wrestling, WWF was always looked at as a Northeast promotion. That's why people say, oh, you should go up north or go to New York, even though WWF was in Stamford. WWF was always perceived as a Northeast New York company. WCW and NWA was always perceived as Southern. It was Southern. TNA was kind of in that boat too until they moved to Florida. Bobby Duncombe Jr., you look at Dick Slater in the WWF in the mid-'80s. You look at Dick Murdoch in the WWF. Even though him and Adrian Adonis, the East-West connection, was great, for a blip. And that's probably more because of Adrian Adonis being New York. But Southern, to me, my favorite Southern wrestler from the WWF in the 80s is Dr. D. David Schultz. That is the exception to the rule, because you legitimately thought that this guy, if they had cops or live PD or On Patrol Live back in the 80s on TV, you would think that the cops would be going to Dr. D's home every day because he beat up his wife, whipped his kids, you know, broke a whole bunch of shit. Clean that up, woman. Dr. D. David Schultz was an exception to the rule, but WWF, Southern wrestlers, Southern boys, Tracy Smothers, you see how far that went. You look at Southern percent, Bobby Duncombe Jr. would have fit that role. Nah, not in WWE. Nope. James Campbell, was I in the building when RVD won the championship from John Cena at One Night Stand? And if so, what was the environment? Okay, I covered it on my hotline, and we podcasted. Kev, I believe, was there. I will tell you that it being in New York, it was insane. I sound like Crazy Eddie. It was insane. So many people called us up. It going to an ECW. I'm talking about the original ECW show on steroids. It was really, really, really tension in the air. And the majority of the crowd was pro ECW. They were having a ball. Listen, if Cena wins, we riot. Would they have rioted? No, but they would have thrown tons of garbage in the ring, maybe thrown chairs in the ring. That environment, if it came off as hostile on TV, put it this way. When Eric Bischoff was walking the rafters with a whole bunch of WWE wrestlers, and then Paul Heyman was in the ring, and he called out Eric Bischoff, and Eric Bischoff was in the rafters and went like this, you can't believe how many people wanted to rip Eric Bischoff's head off. They were there because WWE anticipated what was going to happen. And that's because of Paul Heyman. Paul Heyman knew the rabid, loyal ECW audience from '01 and earlier were going to show up. And if they had half the energy that they did at the ECW arena, it would come off on TV. And it did. And it did. It was spectacular to watch, man. The only reason why I didn't go was because WWE was suing me at the time, because I was going to do Hardcore Homecoming. And WWE was going to, try to sue me, and I had to trademark ECW. You know that whole story. And I was like, fuck them. I'm not spending no money on their shit. I kind of regret it years later, but no, I was not there. Listen, Rob Van Dam and Sabu getting pulled over with drugs being found in the car. I don't care who says they weren't arrested that night. They weren't this, that fucked Rob Van Dam up. RVD could have done much more at that time if it wasn't for that pullover. In fact, I got to put that episode online of Kevin and I covering when RVD and Sabu got pulled over from the cops. I was angry. I was like, you can't be that stupid. You can't be that stoned and drive the way he drove and not expect them to be like, is that a smell of marijuana in the car? That's not just, today's day and age. They screwed up, man. They screwed up. Sabu being underrated drunk guy, I would say yes to a point. The reason why Sabu was so insanely over is because how crazy he was. If Sabu got watered down, New Jack and Shark Boy in TNA is a rare exception to the rule. When New Jack started doing the comedy stuff with Shark Boy, you started to see the side of New Jack that I loved. I had a friendship with New Jack. A lot of you know that. And I knew how that guy was outside of wrestling. If you push the wrong buttons, he'd fucking want to kill you. When he thought that I was going to fight him in Florida, a lot of you know that story. For some of you that don't know the story, I'll be really brief with this. This has got to be like 2008, 2009, around that time. The Masked Maniac was going to have a show in Florida. And I was going to fly down to Florida and manage somebody that was going to take on New Jack. Maybe Low Life Louie. I don't know. But I was working on going to Florida. Somehow, New Jack, somebody got back to New Jack, and I kind of know who it was, but we're not going to out him now. But somebody went back to New Jack and said, hey, how do you feel about that fat fuck de Blasi, saying that he's going to wrestle you at UXW in Florida? New Jack was one of maybe 30 people that I allowed on my personal Facebook page. I have 2 Facebook pages, one for my family and personal friends from childhood, and one for the shows. New Jack was one of only about 30 online that was a friend on my personal Facebook page. You don't know what it's like to be woken up at 4:00 in the morning from a friend of yours says, Anthony, you got to go on your Facebook page. Huh? What? I'm sleeping. No. You got to go on your Facebook page now. Somebody's threatening to kill you. And I'm like, what? I log on and it's New Jack on my personal Facebook page. Let me tell you something, you fat fuck. If you think you're going to fight, I will fuck. What happened in mass transit is going to be nothing what I'm going to do to your fat ass. Fuck you. I don't care what you did for me. You ain't my friend. You fucking want to, I'm about to retire and you're going to try to fight me? Yeah, come down to Florida. I'll fucking cut your ass up. And I was like, no, that's not what happened. And I swear on Jesus Christ, I'll never do another show again. I sent the DM to New Jack at like 4:15 in the morning. And I'm like, New Jack, no. I put in capital letters, no. I never said that. I was going to manage someone. On a stack of Bibles, you know what New Jack's answer to me was? My bad. That was it. I mean, everything got deleted. But you don't know what it's like at 4:00 in the morning. Me, especially not being a wrestler, finding out that New Jack's threatening to kill you. That is legit. But New Jack in TNA doing the comedy stuff worked. Sabu wouldn't have worked. Sabu had to be a crash test dummy. That's how Sabu got over. Nobody wanted to see Sabu wrestle. They wanted him as a crash test dummy. That's why he's not underrated or even overrated. Sabu, at what he did, is one of the greatest of all time. For his style is one of the greatest of all time. It's just not a style that everybody likes. That's why you see even AEW brought him in for a guest appearance or two. And people like, do you realize like some of the shit he says online and how racist he gets? But they still brought him in, you know? And look at Ric Flair. You know, Tony Khan's been saying that, oh, no, Woo Energy is paying Ric Flair. We're not paying him. Go on AEW shop right now and look at the new plush stuffed animal, Ric Flair, whatever it is. It's like it's stuffed toys and stuff. I'm like, yeah, Woo Energy is doing that. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's legit. New Jack, I probably still have the DM saved because I still got my old Facebook page. I don't go on there much. But he just wrote back, my bad. And I trust me, that was good enough for me. And look, New Jack was on with me afterwards, and we had good laughs about it. You know, that guy was a good guy, man. I mean, look, not, you know, the greatest guy around, but he was a much nicer guy than you think. It's just when you're the wrestler you are, and that is your livelihood, and that is how you get paid, you do not give this perception that you can maybe warm up a little bit. That's why Abdullah the Butcher, you know, as long as he had his wrestling career, you didn't fuck with Abby. After his career was over, then he mellowed out a little bit. Then you could socialize a little bit. And then you could be a little bit, you know, relaxed with him. But as long as he was Abdullah the Butcher, hello, Mr. Butcher. Hey, I got to I managed Abdullah the Butcher one night. I know a lot of you know it. We will not show that footage today. But Roderick Howard, who is Brock Lesnar's opponent at WrestleMania 40? If anyone at all. For me, it's only one person. I'll give you a hint. His wrestler name is only one word. The first letter and the last letter are consonants. Vowels? Consonants. It's not a vowel. Gunther. That is the only match that I will accept. Brock Lesnar versus Gunther. And I probably would do it for night 2. I think it's got to be Gunther. And guess what? Watching Brock Lesnar get chopped by Gunther, that sword is going to have 2 points when it's done. It's going to look like he had a double-edged sword on his chest when Gunther chops him. And guess what? I think Brock Lesnar would fucking love it. I think he would love it. And I think Gunther would love it as well. Give me Lesnar versus Gunther. No, Gunther's got to go over, in my opinion. Gunther goes over. I think Gunther goes over. And I think Brock Lesnar will have no problem with it. Rams fan. What's up, Rams fan? Did I read Britt Baker's latest thoughts on how she stepped away because fans said she was taking up too much time over others? I don't buy that at all. You do not base your career on feedback. You know, if you're good at what you do and fans don't like you, you have to have the wherewithal to know, hey, I'm not going to fuck up my career because the complaint box is like, she's got too much TV time. No, I don't buy that at all. I don't buy that at all. Listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Britt Baker, but for a year and a half, I was very impressed on how hard she worked to improve what she did. I don't know what happened in 2023 in ring-wise, because it felt like she took a few steps back. It happens. But if Britt Baker actually is watering down her career because fans complained about TV time, first of all, if they're complaining about TV time, it means they're watching. And if you lighten your career because of it, you're a fucking idiot. You don't do that. I don't believe that at all. I think Britt Baker is just trolling some of the deepest complainers online. I don't buy that. Don't buy it at all. And it would be stupid. You don't do that. Talk good about me, talk bad about me, just talk about me. Shane Douglas said that to me back in my hotline days when I used to pick up Shane Douglas from the airport for XPW shows, and he would always say, Anthony, you want to hang out in a hotel? No, this is not like a Chris Jericho thing. We would just hang out and talk. He liked to talk. He loved to talk business. I remember first time hanging out with him, he had and don't ask me how I remember the kid's name. He had just given birth to his son. I think his name is Connor Allen. I think that's the name of his son. I always remembered that. And I was like, he was the one that recommended that I do the bus trips for Hardcore Homecoming. He's the one that called Frank Goodman and said, could you give me Anthony's number? I want him to do the bus trips for Hardcore Homecoming, because he was doing Hardcore Homecoming with Jeremy Borash and a few others. Problem is, Borash went to Mike Johnson, Shane Douglas went to me, and who's going to win out on that? PW Insider with all their press, not me. So I got forced out. But Shane Douglas used to say to me, listen, let them talk good about you, talk bad about you, as long as they're talking about you. And that's something that always stuck with me. And honestly, that's something that a lot of podcasters today live by. You got Hall of Famers from Bischoff, Dutch Mantel, Vince Russo, Jim Cornette, to even non-wrestlers like JD from New York and others. Talk good about me, talk bad about me, just talk about me. So that's how I look at that. T. Smitty, what's up, T. Smitty? Thank you for the 5 spot, my friend. He says, I remember fans crushing WWE for years for giving part-timers Prime Mania spots, only to be upset Rock isn't taking Cody's spot. Sounds fickle to him. A lot of fans did that because CM Punk bitched about The Rock years ago. We never minded a part-timer coming in for one match. If someone else was getting screwed as a result, that's different. But people did not bitch. People started bitching when CM Punk bitched about The Rock. That's the facts. And you know how I could prove it? T. Smitty, when you look at people in the past that complain about it, let them give you examples. You know what example they'll give you? Well, when The Rock came back. Let them give you other examples. If they say, well, Hogan. No, Hogan was pretty much full-time in 2002, not the full-time that you would think compared to others. Listen, The Rock having the match with Roman, Rock is not returning, is not going to wrestle multiple, months. He's not winning the championship. You're not going to take 2 years of Cody, especially when his contract is up. Not now, but soon. You're not going to say, all right, fuck the story. Cody, we want to finish the story, but Dwayne, come on. Cody, you should know that. Yeah. Trust me, that it's not happening. People want you to think that to draw you in. Look at all the Mercedes Moné press the last week. Now the clickbait is, Mercedes confirmed date. Then you click on the website, the news article, and the confirmed date is her in the ring with Okada, I think it was, sharing a Coke and a smile. It's like, oh, come on, man. People want to know about AEW. They don't give a shit about the New Japan appearance. That's how come you didn't report Dolph Ziggler's return confirmed? And you show that. Cody's finishing his story. I will say this, though. A little part of me says, and listen, I'm not putting this in no titles because I'm not going to try to click anybody in, but there is a small side of me that says, DT, it's too predictable for Cody to finish this story. It is a year plus because we all thought he was going to win at Mania 39. It's too predictable, DT. He ain't going to win it at WrestleMania. Too many people believe that to happen. Then I say to myself, yeah, but They said the same about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn beating the Usos. Sometimes the uber predictable ends up happening. The reason why it feels like a letdown is because you talked about it for so much. Adam Cole being revealed as the devil. A lot of people that are honest are saying, this is kind of a letdown. And you know why? Because for weeks, if not months, people thought it was Adam Cole. They thought it was Jack Perry at first, and then it became Adam Cole. And remember when Adam Cole was sitting in the ring in the chair and hit the click button and the lights went out and the devil went on the screen? People kind of knew. So if you talk about it week after week after week after week, and you know who it is. Anybody remember? It was me, Austin. It was me all along. Remember the higher power? At that time, I don't think much of anybody thought it was Vince McMahon. If we all thought it was Vince McMahon and we talked about it day after day after day after day, we would be, we knew that was going to happen. And you kind of would be a little let down. When it hits you out of nowhere and you're blindsided by it, that's when it works the best. I still remember Jim Ross's reaction to it. I think he said, "Oh, damn it." He said something like that. He couldn't curse, obviously, but I remember as soon as Vince revealed, he was like, "Oh, damn it." I loved it. On the History show, I loved it so much, I played the entire 30 minutes on the History show. If anybody downloaded the History shows, I played the whole 30 minutes. That's how much I enjoyed it. So, and remember, they had Shane McMahon on the Titantron. No, they had Vince on the Titantron, I think. I think Shane was in the ring and Vince was on the Titantron, and we thought Vince was in the back. And then he revealed it. Damn it. Juan Jackson. Ayo, DT, not a fan of him anymore. But who does Seth freaking Rollins face at the Royal Rumble for the World Heavyweight title? Drew McIntyre disappointed me. I think Drew McIntyre is still winning it. Call me stupid, fine. Seth Rollins versus CM Punk for the World Heavyweight Championship. Yes, it has more luster than no championship. But I personally feel if there's no title on the line, it makes it up for grabs even more. I think somehow Drew McIntyre may get one last shot, or maybe somebody else shows up. Maybe somebody else shows up and attacks Seth Rollins out of nowhere. And I don't see Seth Rollins keeping that belt to Mania. My God, if Seth keeps it to Mania, does anybody want Seth to retain at Mania? Not because he's beating CM Punk, but after all of this time, don't you feel that it's time for a change? So I don't want Seth to have that belt by Mania. Let it be somebody else. Maybe Sami Zayn returns, but I don't see Seth Rollins defending that title at the Royal Rumble unless it's Drew McIntyre, unless there is some, three-way, four-way, something. I don't know if you do two fatal four-ways at the Royal Rumble. You got Roman Reigns in his fatal four-way. Does Seth have a fatal four-way? I wonder. I have a feeling this Monday's Raw will get that answer. I do. Roderick thinks that could see Drew beating Seth at the Rumble. I think Drew has to get it. Not because I want it, but, you look at the last year and a half. I mean, when Bobby Lashley cuts a promo on SmackDown, 2023 was the worst year of my career. I almost feel the same way about Drew McIntyre. My God, he cuts the promo about family members being deceased now. And, was it all worth it? It's got to be worth it. Some point, losing and losing and losing, unless he's leaving for real, once his contract is up. I don't know. Okay. This one they're all good, but VJ with the 5 spot. Thank you, VJ. Have I seen the Instagram videos of the women in AEW that they made, they definitely have a high opinion of themselves. Keep up the great work, DT. Love listening to you. Thank you, VJ. For those out there that have not seen them, there are videos floating around on social media. I know there's at least 2, might be more. I think Saraya might be the one that had this idea in the first place. I'm not sure, but it's Saraya, Mariah May, Kiera Hogan, every woman pretty much in AEW. They're doing videos. And, listen, this is my honest take on the videos. They're basically, I guess their point they're trying to make is we're much more than just, footage for masturbation, or just for entertainment purposes. I get the idea of the video, but when they go to the point where they're actually saying, I hate it when I get dick pics DM to me. When you go that explicit, then you deserve to be shown on I don't know, Pornhub. You're like, you should not be, put it this way, those women should be recording those videos for Tony Khan. For those who decide to only have one women's match, sometimes 2 on Dynamite. The Chris Statlander is saying what she does. The people that are deciding that Julie Hart and Jay Cargill and Chris Statlander and Kara Shida and Tony Storm, they all have the same template when it comes to feuds. Win the belt. Come out next week, cut promo. Week after, fight and beat no-name person. Someone else comes out on a rampway, has a problem with you. Then the week after, you address the problem. Then Marina Shafir comes out. No, the problem. Then it's a tag match. And then after the tag match, they announce the match. And then you have the match. And after the match is over, the week after, you cut a promo. And then someone else comes out on the rampway. And then you beat up someone else and it turns into a tag. It's the same template. So them doing these videos, Saraya, Mariah May, Ruby Soho, I almost said Ruby Riott, Tony Storm, Julie Hart, Sky Blue, Red Velvet. You don't need to prove to us. We all know that they could work pretty decent. Tell your company this. We deserve more time. That's my honest take about those videos. They definitely serve a purpose, but it's not like one of those ESPN commercials back in the day. Do you remember the commercial with WWF when I think The Rock was in there and they're like, everybody thinks that WWF is about sex and violence. And then I think that's when they were doing the attitude stuff. They're trying to come off as one of those type of commercials, but they're addressing the wrong audience, in my honest opinion. They're addressing the wrong audience. Mark Hicks, happy 20 months as a made man of the family. Can the revived TNA become competitive with AEW if they get old fans to watch again? No. Got news for you. Old fans are watching. That's the problem. Their 18 to 49 demo right now is 0.00. What does that mean in real English? Less than 6,000 or 7,000 fans between the ages of 18 to 49 are watching. The problem is everybody that is watching are older fans. That's the problem. They're not attracting young fans. When their demo is 0, listen, I think what people get wrong about understanding ratings and demos is it's not total viewers, so to speak. It is a percentage of your audience. That's why I always have a problem when you hear somebody tout that they were in the top 5 for the night on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and then you look and then you realize, wait, you only drew 400,000 viewers total. Yes, your 18 to 49 demo was 0.22. But overall, you only drew 400,000 viewers. But meanwhile, somebody whose demo is 0.20 with 3 million viewers is ranked lower? Tell me where that works. Imagine McDonald's or a restaurant touting that they're the number one selling chain. Well, McDonald's probably is, but let's say Arby's, the number one selling chain in the world. And then you find out, well, that's because more 18 to 49 customers come in than anybody else. You know, I know it's a bad example, but when you have a point, whatever, it's a percentage of your viewing audience. Look at WWE Raw, The Rock, Jinder Mahal. That quarter hour, which we covered yesterday, did 2 million viewers. Over 1 million were 18 to 49. Look at the percentage of their demo. It is a percentage of their overall viewership. It's not 1 million compared to another show out there that did 1 million. Because if someone else did 10 million viewers and scored 1 million in the 18 to 49, their overall 18 to 49 demo percentage would be lower, obviously. When NXT beat AEW in the 18 to 49 demo last week, which if you notice, nobody's talking about, it's not based on, just overall. It's based on the percentage. It happens to be that NXT squeaked out AEW by 2 points or something. It was very close. But so when you look at TNA and you see their demo 0.00, that means the demo that everybody talks about, that demo is not watching. And that's the problem with TNA. And do you honestly think 18 to 49s are going to start in droves watching TNA because Mercedes shows up? They won't show up for Jay White. They won't show up for Will Ospreay. They won't show up for Bullet Club Gold, Bullet Club Red, Bullet Club Bullet. They don't show up. They didn't show up for Naomi. They're not showing up. And there's a bigger problem there, and there isn't any one person that'll fix it. Oh, Jack in the Box before Arby's. We don't have Jack in the Box around here, as far as I know, Gruss. Jack in the Box. Tristan, as someone who was in the ECW locker room, what was my original thoughts and reaction to the mass transit thing? I was not in the ECW locker room only but 2 times. That's because I was pushing tickets towards the end of their tenure. I was not backstage there when mass transit happened. I was not in the building either. I will tell you, as fucked up as it sounds, New Jack should not have sliced him up the way he did, obviously, but that kid lied about his age. He went in the locker room and started walking around like he was a member of the roster, telling, I think it was it Devon? I think it might have been Devon. Look, I want to do this. I got to do this. I think we should do this. Who are you? He lied. And he got his ass kicked. I will tell you this. Look, him passing away young is sad. But for most ECW wrestlers, as cold as this sounds, and as most fans, they don't give a shit. Should have never been in that ring. Period. All right. Let's start bringing this home. It is 9:15. I definitely want to be done in the next 5 or 10 minutes. Like I said, you saw the beginning of the show, what happened. She's probably taking a nap inside. But, I told her that I want to do this because, hey, a lot of you saw me bring her on the show like 2 weeks ago. I don't remember what episode it was, but 2 weeks ago, I brought her on for a second at the beginning of the show to show everybody, so she's really, really distraught right now. I mean, you got to understand, and I'm sure a lot of you could relate with this. If you have a girlfriend or a wife or even a mother, you have a female dog, the female in your life is attached more to the female dog. And that's the deal with my wife. Chelsea was her favorite. I don't even think it's fair to say favorite, but that's who she clicked with the most. That's why her female dog was here every day. I couldn't have all 3 dogs here. So, All right. Let's see. Anybody have questions before we wrap it up? Tomorrow we have Raw. We got to see what they do about Drew McIntyre. I have a feeling Adam Pearce is going to announce some type of deal to determine who's the next challenger for Seth Rollins. And we'll see if that leads to some match at the Rumble. I'm still not convinced. Listen, I don't believe CM Punk is going to cause Seth Rollins the championship. Like, a lot of people think that Seth will face whoever and CM Punk gets involved, Seth loses it, and that leads to the feud. To me, I don't see that. I don't see them turning CM Punk heel. CM Punk is getting too much merchandise, too many views, too much love. Right now they want to capitalize that and ride that momentum. When that momentum starts to decline, you'll feel it, you'll hear it, you'll sense it, and that's when WWE will take note. Drunk Guy, my thoughts on Rob Feinstein and our video. I used to be friendly with Rob. When the whole thing went down with the incident that it forced him to leave Ring of Honor, at the time, we were pretty convinced that he did what they alleged him to do. I will tell you honestly, and I talked to Rob about 4 years ago. It's probably the last time I talked to Rob. I could honestly tell you that the reason why this did not go further in the legal world was because there was legit allegations that those transcripts were altered. At that time, you got to understand, so we're talking what, 2004, 3, 4, 5, around that time period? Social media, the internet, the way things were done was a lot different at that time compared to now, with forensics and other stuff. Tracking things handled much different. And honestly, a lot of it didn't go public. But privately, people in the wrestling world, there were people out there that were convinced Feinstein is a pedo. I hate to use that word. At that time, you weren't going to change their mind. They thought that's what he was, not going to change their mind. No matter what proof get services, they're not going to change their mind. I think Rob knew that right away. His lawyer knew it right away. And little by little, you started finding out that, when they wanted to verify this, they couldn't verify that, and they couldn't get this. And, there was some legit allegations. I'm a little surprised that Rob never filed a lawsuit over it. But as the years went by, you want to know something? At the time it happened, I believed it. I really did. I did a deep dive. If you go on Wayback Machine, go to Wayback Machine at the time that happened, type in wrestling-news.com and look at the article. You'll see the picture of the Home Alone video cover with Macaulay Culkin, and you'll see Feinstein in the window. I photoshopped him in the window that he was stalking Macaulay Culkin, the child. You look at that deep dive, you'll understand why I thought it was real. I can honestly say, as the years went on, not only did you believe that he was kind of railroaded, because he really didn't say it the way it was said. I mean, look, there's no excuse. You should not be talking. We just talked about Velveteen Dream a couple of days ago, I think on Patreon. Velveteen Dream, his mistake is talking to random fans in the middle of the night. You never know who was on the other side of that conversation. So you might be innocently, you got a little kid, a preteen. Oh, I want to be a wrestler one day. Oh, what school did you go to? Oh, well, if you graduate and you do this, you look me up and it might just be Velveteen Dream just trying to inspire that kid to go out, get your education, do this, do that, do this. But there's a whole bunch of other people like, oh, he was asking for nudes. And then the people that claim that were on a message board the same night. Fuck Ends was, I think, the name of the channel. I always said at the time, the only way we'll truly know about Feinstein is if it ever happens again. If he made a mistake, and he learned by that mistake, people are redeemable. That's kind of bizarre. I would never ever go that route, what he was accused of. But, there's never been an allegation since. There's never been an accusation since. I could tell you that I know 2 girls personally that used to be valets in indie wrestling here in the Northeast, and they slept with Rob Feinstein. I'm not, listen, you could go both ways. You could have your M&Ms with plain and peanut. I'm not saying that it's one way or the other, but I'm saying that the more that came out, the more things didn't seem to make sense. And as the years went by, you believed them. And I believe that he didn't do anything illegal. I really believe that. And there's going to be people that disagree with me, and I respect that. We'll never know 100%, but there's enough years of gone. Look, it's almost 20 years, 18 years, whatever it is. I mean, the guy is not in any, nothing. So you got to kind of give him a little bit of, a credit that nothing has happened. Before, after. Okay. Hook is not AEW's savior. Hook is there because of Taz's being employed in the company. He's Taz's son. Hook is not a ratings draw. Hook is someone new. And Hook is learning. They're going to take a couple of years before, and I don't know how much of Hook's repertoire ends up 5 years from now. But he's doing a decent job. He's doing what's needed. I don't have any issues with Hook at all. James Campbell, how do I feel about Cody Rhodes finishing his story against Randy Orton instead of Roman Reigns? That's not WrestleMania quality, not for this year. I don't care what history they have. I don't care about legacy. I don't care about Orton's return. That is not finishing the story. Anybody out there that's trying to put that as a possibility, not for WrestleMania. You want to have a feud for SummerSlam? Fine. You want to have a feud going into the latter part of 2024? Fine. After Cody wins the remember, Cody wins the championship, Cody's on the same brand as Randy Orton. If Randy Orton, I wouldn't be surprised if Randy Orton is the first to greet Cody Rhodes on SmackDown as the undisputed WWE Universal Champion and RKO's him. Not WrestleMania. Cody finishes his story, then he creates a new book and takes on Randy Orton. Not WrestleMania. Not WrestleMania. No. I still would like to see Randy Orton and LA Knight win tag titles once they divide those belts up to Raw and SmackDown. Let's see. Cody and Orton for SummerSlam, that's definitely a possibility. Sure. Listen, Cody's going to need opponents. You got to look at SmackDown. Cody versus LA Knight, maybe too soon. Cody Roman rematch, definitely. Cody Randy, yeah. I think that should be one of the first. Cody AJ Styles, absolutely. Cody Rhodes, AJ, and listen, that might, even though you may not have thought about this, that might be the reason why AJ Styles was inserted now. Get him used to being main event level again, fighting against the other main eventers. So when Cody is on SmackDown as the champion, Cody, AJ, history, Bullet Club, that might be why we got AJ the way he is right now. As a heel, sort of. Mark my words, Cody Rhodes, AJ Styles for the championship will happen in 2024. Will Manu return? Nah. Nope. All right. Let's finish this up in 4 minutes. So I'll be done by 9:30. How much of a pathetic goof did Tony Khan look like imitating the Triple H finger point when handling the Gators coach the AEW title? That's from Benjamin. I felt bad for Tony Khan because the biggest tweet that came out at, this is the tweet I mentioned last week, guys, where Tony Khan presented a championship belt to a college coach for winning a championship. and the media was almost non-existent. And I don't know what Tony Khan was looking for. Listen, anytime you could present your championship to some type of an audience out there, a decent sized audience, as in college sports, it's not a bad thing. But, pointing, Triple H didn't invent the point. A lot of people have pointed over the years. I've just felt bad for Tony Khan because the tweet that came out, and the person was not even a wrestling buff, addressed Tony Khan as the son of Jaguars owner Shad Khan, excuse me. The son of Jaguars owner Shad Khan. That's how they didn't even say his name. That's what I felt bad about. I didn't think Tony Khan looked like a goof. I kind of felt bad for him, though. I kind of felt bad for him, especially that there was literally no press. Be funny if that title pops up on eBay. It'd be pretty funny if it did. All right. 2 more questions and we'll get a jet. Let's make them good. Looking some of the repeat stuff that we talked about earlier. So, are we done? I think we're done. Yeah, I think we're done. All right, one more. Who's had a sadder fall from grace, Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair? I would say Hogan by a long shot. Ric Flair, because he almost died and he got back and his daughter is as successful as she is, and Rick has kind of stood out of trouble, I think people just like, oh, Ric Flair, let him enjoy the final years of his life. Hulk Hogan could have repaired a lot of his image and chose not to. He chose that as time goes by, people will forgive. Listen, this is the 40th anniversary of Hulkamania. 40th anniversary of Hulkamania is right around the corner. Does anybody, I think it's January, isn't it? So 40 years of Hulkamania will be on WWE television. So he will still be appreciated, but Hulk Hogan should be valued much more in the world of pro wrestling, and he's not. I would say Hogan by a long shot. And last question, 2 more. Dada Rushman, I tributed Killer Khan last Sunday. Passed away, I think 76 years old. So, just sad. He was in his restaurant and collapsed, and he died. But definitely rest in peace to Killer Khan. But any chance we'll see Ziggler in AEW? I think so. Dolph Ziggler in AEW, I think would work. His brother has been there. He has a lot of friends there. And Dolph Ziggler is still at a high game. Him doing a little New Japan is good. Let him, get a little bit of his feet wet outside of WWE. But yeah, I could see Dolph Ziggler in AEW. Listen, I'm not in favor of a lot of, people signing with AEW, but I thought Deonna Purrazzo signing was great. Last Saturday, we talked about it, that AEW should sign her, and they did. I think Dolph Ziggler in AEW definitely would be a good signing. Because the guy not only could work, he could talk, he works good. He's still young enough. Doesn't mean he has to win the world championship. But I think Dolph Ziggler, there's enough people there that he could have some pretty good quality matches. And listen, AEW has got to get away from so much of the El Hijo del Viqueños and the Commanders and the Action Andrettis and the Dante Martins. And I could Ray Phoenix and Penta and Lucha and Dicta. And you could go on and on and on. There are too much high-flying clusterfuck. You have to get people orgasmic with their minds, not just with their emotions and their reactions. You got to fuck with people's minds. That's why I was so down yesterday about the devil reveal. It has nothing to do with Adam Cole. But besides him being an invalid, half the people have been in comedy segments for months. Wardlow, forget about the fact he's been in all these factions, but Wardlow is now part of a family that, is going to treat him the right way. And then 5 minutes later, Adam Cole is like, Wardlow's going to hand me the title. Like I said yesterday, you might as well put a dinosaur mask on Wardlow and call him Killswitch. Right? El Hijo del Killswitch. Whatever. It's just, I think that's one of the problems in AEW. You got to get away with this car accident mentality. That if it doesn't have blood, if it's not crazy flips, if there's not almost car accident like fighting, that fans are just not going to tune in. Or if it's goofy over the top comedy, fans are not going to tune in. Sometimes you got to get those fans tuning in because of the mind. You look at all the bloodline stuff, and I know it's a little unfair to use the bloodline as an example, but some of the greatest memories we have, the bloodline, have nothing to do with matches. Nothing. And Sami Zayn won and got himself over to a different level, not because of the matches he was having as part of the bloodline. I mean, he got over because of his character and the story and the emotion and the perception and sometimes the innocence. That all won. That won people over. When people were writing cinema, they weren't writing cinema because the match was epic, amazing, unbelievable. Because they wouldn't have had Martin Scorsese on the billboard. They would have had Meltzer instead and put 5 stars. Every time you saw the word cinema, it was because of the storyline, a non-wrestling segment. And that's what they have to work on. Like I said, 2 weeks now, just because it makes sense in AEW doesn't mean it's good. I think Shayna Wayne and I think the Devil stuff, to an extent, are good examples of that. Just because it makes sense doesn't mean that it's good. So I'm out of here, everyone. I hear footsteps in the other room, so that means I have to, spend some time with her. But I thank you all for joining me today. Sorry for getting a little bit emotional at the beginning, but that was real. That was raw. And, hopefully someone, it may help. Maybe not now, but maybe in the future. And, I always, always, always keep it real here. Again, I could go a whole different route and get 5 times the listeners and viewers, but I like keeping it real. When you keep it real and you keep it authentic, you don't have to worry about slipping up in the future. You trigger emotions, you clickbait, you lie, you manipulate, you twist things, you report things are fake, and then you come up with a solution that is actually the news, but you try to come across as, someone giving like answers. Sooner or later, it catches up to people. It's not a winning formula. That's why I think Cornette is number 1 right now. And that's why you see a lot of Hall of Famers. Forget other non-wrestling wrestler podcasts. I'm talking about Hall of Famers in wrestling. Whether you agree with their Hall of Fame caliber or not, you look at them now, and 90% of their discussion is Tony Khan, AEW, Tony Khan, Chris Jericho, AEW, Chris Jericho, Tony Khan, Chris Jericho. And it's like, or now Mercedes Moné, AEW, Mercedes Moné. Like, sooner or later, people get tired of it. So, much love, everybody. If you're around Monday night, as of right now, I am doing a show tomorrow. How long I go, I don't know. Because today is still kind of surreal. It's still hasn't really hit to a point that this really happened. But I should be here tomorrow in some capacity. I don't see myself taking a night off. But if I'm just not in a wrestling mood to even watch Raw tomorrow, I'll post an announcement, but honestly, that's like 5% chance of that happening. Later this week, I'll post the Discord links for everyone. Later this week, we'll put up the thread. how we're going to do the sit down starting the last week in January. And then we'll get a little bit closer to the return of the DTKC show. So be well, everybody. Much love. And thank you for stopping by, whether live or in the archive.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.